Hello there ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another video from Oscar Cooper. You lucky bunch, you have a midweek video from me, mainly because I couldn't get it finished in time for the weekend and I wanted to get it out as soon as possible. I have taken on the crazy task of comparing Dragon Quest XI to Ni No Kuni 2. You probably know both of these games. If you don't, they're JRPGs, big name JRPGs, which stands for Japanese role-playing game, and they both came out this year. Dragon Quest came out very recently, and I've got involved with it, and I wanted to hold the two up against each other. If the Tokyo Metropolitan Symphony Orchestra are involved on a game like Dragon Quest XI, then you've probably got an idea of how high the bar is with the level of production on a game like this. It is absolutely sky high. This game looks and sounds stunning. It is breathtaking how well made this game looks. Over to Ni No Kuni 2, you probably know of Ni No Kuni 1. I nearly bought a PlayStation 3 just because of Ni No Kuni 1. I watched over the fence as an Xbox 360 owner in complete envy at how beautiful that art style is. I'm a big Studio Ghibli fan. I love films like Spirited Away and Princess Mononoke, and this just reeks of it. The artists are involved on a sort of granular level with the game. They're not involved on the development stage, but it certainly has that essence of that magical universe. So let's start with visuals, and one thing I want to make clear with this video is this is a comparison, not a competition, okay? I want to flesh out what you guys would like potentially in either of these games. If you're going to only get one or can only afford one, I want to show you a direction that you should go in depending on what you prefer in a game like this. Ni No Kuni 2, as you can see, looks like an actual high-end Netflix cartoon. I mean, it is jaw-dropping. But don't let that take anything away from Dragon Quest XI. These colours are some of the most beautifully vivid I've seen on a PlayStation 4 game. That butterfly, those flowers, the waterfall, the ambience, and just how natural the whole game looks. When you get into Ni No Kuni 2, the fantasy world and the magic of this forest and just those light rays and how the colours all work together is absolutely beautiful. And again, back to Dragon's Quest, these towns, these villages, this architecture, the size and the sort of grand constructions is amazing. Interiors and character detail are also very important to me. I want to see mannerisms, I want to see movement in clothes, I want to see a lot of care taken on little books on the shelves and things on the tables, etc. Both games deliver fantastically on this level, and both games deliver awesomely on varied environments, be it desert, be it dungeons, be it lush forests, etc. So really, we've got some awesome playgrounds for some excellent JRPG action.
This will be over in no time!
Now let's talk about combat. Combat is where these two games vastly differ. As you can see, Ni No Kuni 2 has a real-time combat system, which I love. I love it. It's arcadey, it's reactionary, it gives you a really good sense of danger and avoiding and parrying and dodging and range, all happening very fast, very flashy, amazing. Now switching over to Dragon Quest XI, if you know about JRPGs or even sort of old school RPGs in general, you'll know that they were turn-based, and turn-based is still a gameplay system that is present in Japanese role-playing games, and it's still in some Western games as well. I like it because it allows you to think. It gives you a level of strategy and sort of resource management that you wouldn't normally see in a game that is based on real-time arcade moves. But don't let that take anything away from Ni No Kuni's combat system. I think this was kind of a risk for the series. It definitely stands the series out from other JRPGs, and it looks amazing. You've got this really cool stuff with these higgly jigglies, and you can see a circle over there. If I get in that circle and I push my special combination, I get all kinds of buffs and perks, etc. It's amazing. We also have a perk and buff system in the turn-based combat within Dragon's Quest XI, and it's called the PEP system. And it's not random, but if a character gets in a lot of combat or takes a lot of hits or gets involved quite a lot, you'll see that they'll flip and they'll get into this powered up mode. If both characters or two characters get it at the same time, you can combine their moves, giving you a massive special. It's absolutely amazing. And I think that if you were going to play Ni No Kuni 2, that you should really put the game on hard. Okay, that's one of the comments from a lot of the reviewers, etc., is that this game needs to be played on a difficulty level because it's kind of a little bit too easy on normal. But you can see some of the massive power-ups that I triggered from using my hickories. Absolutely amazing. Let's move on to story and characters, an area that is massive in these games, and it can make or break these games. They're normally very text heavy and very cutscene heavy Japanese role-playing games, and I kind of love and loathe that at the same time, because I want to get on with the game and I don't want to be clicking through text boxes, etc. They normally give you an option to skip it, but the Dragon Quest XI story is actually pretty damn good. It's quite standout, it's not too cringy. One of the things I will say is that you cannot take the English subtitles or the English language off Western versions of this release, and I much prefer hearing the Japanese tongue in these games and having English subtitles, but you know, that comes with the territory. But to Ni No Kuni 2, and just look at how mad these characters are. They're amazing, and if you've seen any of the Ghibli films, you'll straight away recognize some of these characterizations. I love the characters in this game, and the story is pretty goddamn weird as well. One of the things that Dragon Quest XI concentrates on is companionship and your party and your party's backstories. That's a very big area, and it's kind of larger than Ni No Kuni 2's area. It's all about your party and what your party has to offer and what their backstories and different nuances are in regards to what they did previously. Absolutely amazing on both levels here, and of course I can't emphasize enough how important it is to have a half-decent story in a JRPG. I can think of a lot of JRPGs, I'm not going to mention any names, I don't want to get anyone annoyed, where the story is just so mad and crazy that it just loses you, and it's like I'm not emotionally involved in this at all. I didn't see any of that with either of these two games. Okay, next up we've got leveling, loot and crafting. So I'm going to cover how the RPG elements actually affect your characters and characterization and increasing moves, etc. Dragon Quest has got a really intuitive system. It's a little bit like Final Fantasy 14s or 13s, where you've got a tree that spans out that you can commit to in a particular direction. And I love the idea that you can actually unhook all these and start again at a cost at a church. None of this is set in stone, it's pretty awesome. Ni No Kuni 2 is not simple. It's a bit like a graphic equalizer in regards to the tactic tweaker that you've got at the back end, and that is not simple, and you should be approaching that with an idea of what you want out of your party, i.e. that you can actually put things up and down and it will vastly affect the way that combat happens. Now, giving each character their own weapon and clothing happens in both of these games. Bear in mind that you have 4 characters in Dragon's Quest XI, only 3 to muck about with in Ni No Kuni, but they can be swapped in and swapped out. In both games you can choose your party, and the party increases in choice the further you get through the game with Dragon's Quest XI, which I actually really love. You've also got a huge amount of loot and weapon types to muck around with in Ni No Kuni 2, a lot more than Dragon's Quest, and this is really cool for me. I love looking visually at cool different weapon types and having different element types attached to each weapon. That does happen in Dragon's Quest XI, don't get me wrong, but it's here in droves with Ni No Kuni 2. This game is almost Diablo-esque with its amount of loot that it has lying around, and that sort of gives and takes in certain areas because you're always finding something, you're always grabbing something new. Even down to these higgledies, they can even be leveled up and sort of switched in and switched out depending on what sort of perks you want them to utilize. Loot and finding loot in both games is kind of quite similar. One of the things I like about Dragon's Quest XI is the loot is not everywhere, and you can pull up your map and actually have the shinies shown up where they are, so you can actually go proactively and get them. But I like the idea that it's sparse and it's cool when you do find it. You do also find pretty damn rare loot in Ni No Kuni 2, and the boxes are color coded, etc. Just like Destiny or anything else, loot's color coded, you know, purple, greens, you all know the deal. And it's amazing to find a really cool new weapon for a character, slot that in straight away, and see those stats, you know, and see that impact in combat immediately have an effect. That's a really cool area. You also get rewarded in Dragon's Quest after combat with loot as well. You may fight a particularly difficult enemy, and it will straight away give you a cool thing at the end. This also happens in Ni No Kuni 2, and this boss, man, I nearly switched it on to normal when I was fighting this guy. This took everything out of me, but I loved beating him and getting that awesome rare loot. On hard, you also dovetails in better loot for you, which is a brilliant idea. Also, talking of brilliant ideas, the fun size forge is just a stroke of genius. So Dragon's Quest has got a big element system where finding sort of different metal types, rare metal types, is everywhere. And at camps you can actually put all these into a machine and then use like a weird arcadey bash system to get to a point to make a perfect weapon, and you find recipes everywhere. That's a really deep mechanic. And on the other side of the fence, another equally large mechanic is the actual kingdom mechanic that you've got in Ni No Kuni 2. This is like a whole little version of Sim City even, or you know, the Harvest Moon. You've got all these buildings that you can research and develop things in, and this is where you do your leveling up with all your magic types, and they can craft all different weapon types in the armory, and you can also get soldiers to fight in this skirmish mode that you have. There's also a different game mode completely. I wanted to touch on game traversal very quickly, because traveling in Dragon's Quest 11, you get given a horse. It's awesome. You can bash down enemies, but you can also mount enemies and enemy vehicles, and I wanted to just highlight how amazing that is. That's amazing. It's so cool getting on a little skeleton horse and running around, and it allows you to move around the map a lot quicker. It's a very clever idea, and it's a really cool element. Now, this is one of my only complaints with Ni No Kuni 2, is that the map screen actually switches to this weird big head version of the game. Now, the good news is this is not an area of gameplay that is frequently visited, okay? It will happen when you have to go from a new area to another area, but the map is awesome, and the map has fast travel points everywhere, so that once you get your head around how everything works and you've done enough exploration, you rarely get involved in those scenes. I'm not quite sure why they did that. You know, it's kind of a gimmick maybe. So now it's time for boss fights and enemy types. And this is, again, another massive area for me, because I don't want to be playing a JRPG that repeats enemy types, that has cookie cutter stuff, that, you know, you just get bored with the same old grind, fighting the same old things. The good news is neither of these games have that at all. They all offer really amazing boss fights and varied enemy types. Dragon Quest XI leans on incremental boss fights that are very story driven. It's pretty cool like that, and this game's got some of the best pacing I've ever seen in a JRPG. It pulls you through so well, and you get these amazing story driven, character rich boss fights that feel really meaningful, feel really awesome, and are genuinely pretty difficult as well. It kind of ramps up the difficulty quite you know, drastically on some of them. Ni No Kuni 2, and well, I mean, just look at this guy. They're as fun as they are beautiful. The bosses in this game are taken really seriously, and they all offer an integral method of attack, and some of them even offer staggered levels of attack patterns as well. You'll know what I'm talking about, because this is a real-time game, so that yeah, the boss will get down to a certain health level and completely transform its attack pattern, which is amazing fun. Keeps me coming back all the time. I want to talk about Dragon Quest XI's character modeling. How awesome is the detail on these little guys. Look at the pink little shell on this dude, and look at the way that crab is walking around. You can view these all in a sort of free view mode, and I just caught myself staring open-mouthed at how amazing they are. Ni No Kuni 2's boss fights, I want to say this, are pretty goddamn hard. This guy is a bit of a difficulty spike, so watch out for him. But again, so satisfying to beat, so satisfying to learn the attack patterns, work out what higgledies you need to activate and when, getting all that XP when you beat him, pushing the story forward afterwards and receiving that amazing loot is just so rewarding and excellent. I love it to bits. So we're kind of up to the conclusion, the final comments, and again, as I said at the start of the video, this is not a competition, but I want to just point to you guys what I would do if I was in your position and making a decision on either of these games. Or if you own one of them and you're like, I don't know, do I bother with the other one? These games both need to be owned. If you're a fan of the genre, you should get them both, because they cover vastly different areas but are still fantastic JRPGs. I think that's going to be my official line on this. The combat is so different in Ni No Kuni 2 that it's just impossible to compare it to Dragon Quest XI. Dragon Quest, the series, is basically a game changer in regards to its older versions and some of its previous titles. It kind of just set the bar. I mean, a lot of people would tell you that the previous Dragon Quest games are the best JRPGs, especially 8. I'm hearing a lot of that, you know, in the world, full stop. Just really chilling with these games is another thing I wanted to talk about. Dragon Quest XI is a sort of game that you play when you've had a long day, you're just basically, you've got nothing to do or any arrangements that evening. You want to just pump a couple of relaxed hours into a really cool, story-driven, laid-back game that's going to make you feel good. It's going to make you feel warm inside with how awesome the story, the characters, and just the pacing of this game is. You know, it's genuinely relaxing and makes me feel good, you know, after playing it. It's not like going online on Black Ops 4 and sort of walking away with clenched teeth, you know, and a lower kill to death ratio than you had when you started with. This is a whole different era of gaming, and if you've never looked at JRPGs, man, you're missing out. You're missing out on a magical, wonderful escapism that hardly any other gaming genre offers. They're very important to the industry. These types of games were there in the beginning, they'll be there in the end, and I think these two are some of the best on the PlayStation 4. I really do. They're both going to get a Game of the Year nomination from me. I'm still struggling to say which one I like the most. So if you sat me down and said, if you could only choose one of these two, which one would you choose? I would probably give you a couple of hours of ear bending until I came. I don't think I've made the decision, so that helps you. Not at all, I do realise that, but Michael, if you haven't got Ni No Kuni 2, I think this video is going to turn you round. And guys, as always, I will see you down there. Thanks for watching.